What's happening, everybody? Welcome back to the TB Toycast YouTube channel. And today we're going back into the world of the DC Super Friends with McFarlane Toys. Super Friends, it is Sinestro. Really excited to dive into this one. I haven't done a Super Friends in a while. Batman, I believe, was my last unboxing. Is that right? No, it was Lex Luthor. That's who I did last. So I'm diving into a few of the villains here. Of course, classic Super Friends packaging. I'll always talk about this and talk about it with such admiration because I love the weathering look here. That is such a cool thing that they did with these. Minimal accessories, as most of you know, that's not something that bothers me too much. Less to lose, right? I think that's a cool thing, more of a focus on the figure. I do know Kyle Peterson pointed this out. Shout out to his channel. If you're not following it, check it out. There is no mention of the names on these figures on the packaging anywhere. That is a very, very interesting thing. I feel like there should be a nameplate right in here that just says Sinestro, especially now that we're getting into some of the unique characters, because I've seen Series 3 popping up at Target. In fact, I've already picked up Jaina of the Wonder Twins and Aquaman. And in that wave is a Bizarro Batman, which is just kind of a variant Batman. And if you weren't looking real close, you may not notice the face. So people I could see picking that up, hey, it's Batman. But it doesn't say anything down there. So that might be something they need to look into. But overall, I think these are really cool. They could also say something on the back, and again, there's no mention of his name anywhere. That is very, very interesting. Is that the first time we've seen that in a toy line, where it just, here's the figure, but no mention of the name? I know there's a trading card inside, but definitely interesting. But as you can see here, this is, of course, just our superheroes, not our villains. There's quite a few they haven't even dove into yet. Of course, we haven't got Hawkman, Robin, Plastic Man would be a lot of fun. Red Tornado would be a nice, unique one. Supergirl over here, Shazam would be fun, so it'll be interesting to see how long this line goes. They did announce recently, Todd McFarlane did, that he's got DC through 2026, and then I guess Mattel officially takes over the collectibles in 2027, but apparently they will be starting to make kids-based toys in like summer of 2026, so it's kind of that weird layover. But as we know, Spin Master right now is making Batman figures and other things of that, as it were, so again, I don't know how those contracts work. This is more of an adult collectible. It's in the collector's section. Those are more kids-based. It's all weird to me because it's all kind of the same thing, but it's also just a little bit different. Different enough, I guess. So I guess time will tell on that. But in the meantime, hopefully, we've already got 3 waves of Super Friends. As long as they keep pumping them out, I'll be happy. It's almost a little bit harder to pick them up. I've got all of Wave 2 picked up, except Superman. I haven't grabbed it yet. I didn't grab it the first time I saw it, and I haven't seen it since, so I may have to go online for that one, unfortunately. That happens sometimes. You can't just buy them all. I mean, these are $20 a pop, or 21 now, so, buying all 6 at one time is kind of an expensive Target bill, as it were. I also haven't seen any more at Walmart, just Series 1, so I'm sure Walmart will start getting more. I know Travis from the podcast had a lot of issues finding Series 1. They were everywhere for me. In fact, I told him, I was like, well, let me go out and see if I can find them. And I found all Series 1 figures, all 6, including the 2 chases, in one day. Now, that was hitting a few different stores, but I found them all in one day. So, again, it's just one of those things. Your mileage may vary, but if there's a will, there's a way sometimes. So we've got to get him out of the package. Classic style packaging here. I definitely don't hate that. I also like that they did this little bubble right here because it stands up for display purposes. I think that's a nice feature. So definitely enjoy that. Of course, got the trading card here. And this, of course, does say Sinestro on it. So if you are keeping the trading cards, that's a good way to, keep an idea of which characters you have, as it were. But, yeah, it's weird that it's not on the packaging. I don't know if that was just something that was overlooked or what happened. Of course, rounded edges on these cards, I can't say I like that, but the card definitely does look cool. And we've got a little bit of a checklist on the back there. Batman, Lex Luthor, Green Lantern, the Riddler, and Sinestro. Only one we're missing is the Universe of Evil Batman, which is technically a variant. But I still think it should be listed because it's a totally different figure. If it was like a slight variant, okay. But to me, it's a completely different character. So I think that definitely should be listed there. But it is what it is. So got some twist ties here, but not too bad. Easy to get out. Not too bad at all. Minimal articulation with this guy, but I think that's okay. Of course, he's got that. Ooh, got a little bit of a paint scuff right there. I don't like that. It is on the side of the head, so I think if you have him positioned this way, you probably won't see it. Classic Super Friends outfit. A lot of reuse in the parts here, but again, I'm okay with it. This torso may be different. I don't know if I've seen that belt on anything yet, but I'd have to look. I do know the Lex Luthor figure had these like pieces on the legs which I thought was interesting because I was like, well, that definitely didn't need to do that, but they did mold that, so I do appreciate that. The head does look pretty good, best I can tell. And like I said, definitely a classic look at Sinestro. Got his ring there. I do like that these have good shoulder articulation, because I would have assumed just looking at these would have been classic, just up and down shoulders. The legs certainly are, but definitely not that way with the shoulders. So I definitely like that. Got a nice accessory here, almost like, well, these aren't even articulated. I thought it was almost going to be like it almost looks like a fireplace thing that you would grab the logs with, but it does not move, so he can hold that in his hand. Very, very cool. But yeah, not a lot to write home about as far as articulation with these guys, but again, I think for what they are, they're a lot of fun. And again, this hits me in the feels for sure, because I loved watching old reruns of Super Friends a little bit before my time. Probably more of a 70s cartoon, especially if you look at the colors. It's definitely 70s, definitely a 70s look. But to me, I always liked watching old episodes of Super Friends. Of course, we also got a communicator here, if I can get the camera to focus on it. There we go, a little communicator, nothing too special, but a lot of the figures do come with that. Set that right there. Overall, though, I think this is a good figure. It's a nice addition to the villains. And I feel like they've done a good job with the villains with this line. And I think, to me, anytime I collect a line, how you do your villains is really what pulls me into it. If you really have a good rogues gallery, because I always go back to if I'm playing with these, and yeah, you want Batman, you want Superman, you want the Flash, but you need guys for them to fight. So having the Riddler, Sinestro, Lex Luthor, Universe of Evil Batman, 4 villains in Wave 1, I think that's great. And then Wave 2, you got Universe of Evil Superman. You got Cheetah, you got Toyman, and you got Captain Cold. So 4 villains in Wave 2 as well. I guess Wave 3, you have Brainiac, you have Bizarro Batman and Bizarro as villains, and the Wonder Twins and Aquaman as your good guys, as your heroes. So we've got a good mix of villains. Actually, probably more villains than superheroes at this point. And as you saw at the back of the packaging, there's a lot more heroes they can still make. So I think that's really cool. But yeah, Sinestro added to the collection is always a lot of fun. I think this is a super cool looking figure. And I think it's also really cool that they kind of separated it a little bit, where we did get Green Lantern and Sinestro in Wave 1, but we got Superman in Wave 2 and Lex Luthor in Wave 1. We haven't got the Joker yet. I don't remember specifically how often the Joker appeared on Super Friends, but I would imagine he was there. So I'm hoping we get more of those villains. I would love to see some more classic Batman villains. I'd love to see Black Manta. I do know he appeared on Super Friends, and I've always thought that was such a fun character. In fact, I've wanted that one in the DC Multiverse line for a while. There's actually an Aquaman movie, Black Manta, that looks really good, and I typically don't collect movie figures, but that one I will make an exception for just because it's such a nice looking figure. So I do plan to pick that up at some point. Just so much stuff is coming out all the time. It's hard to collect it all. The woes of being a collector. I'm sure if you guys are collectors like myself, you know that all too well. But let me know in the comments down below if you're collecting the Super Friends line, if you're into McFarlane at all, or if you picked up Sinestro and what did you think about it. In fact, my local Walmart that I go to often just for groceries and other things, I was there today buying laundry detergent. In fact, they had 3 Sinestros and 3 Riddlers still on the peg. So this one's not super hard to find that I've noticed. But your mileage may vary. Again, every store is a little bit different. Wave 2, a little bit harder to find, I've noticed. Wave 3 definitely hasn't hit a lot of places yet, but I think it will. My local Target had all of Wave 3 the other day, so I picked up Jaina because she is the chase. I thought that was going to be the hardest one to find. I went back probably a week to 10 days later. The rest of the other 5 were still in the pegs. So is it possible they sold out and restocked? Yes, but I would have to say that's probably still the same original 5. So I was like, well, maybe I can pick these up one at a time, here and there, and not have to worry about it. Because that was the beauty of collecting back, I felt like in the 90s. If I left a figure on the pegs, there's a good chance I could go back and get it later. That was always a nice change of pace. So I wish that would return a little bit, but, it's one of those things where it is what it is. But definitely a cool figure and a nice fun addition to the Super Friends line. So I hope you guys enjoy it. A lot of cool unboxings on the channel. This past week was a great week for unboxings. Actually, on Monday, I went back, again, a McFarlane figure. I went to the World of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Page Punchers line, and I unboxed Leonardo. Such a great figure. Check that out. On Wednesday, I went back to the World of Retro Mattel with the WWE Retro figures and unboxed the British Bulldog, no stranger to retro figures. Really cool to get him. And then on Friday, back in the world of Marvel Legends. I haven't unboxed a Marvel Legends in quite some time, but I checked out Dracula from the Strange Tales Marvel Legends line. Really, really cool figure, and so cool to get a Dracula Marvel Legends. I mean, how could I pass up on that? So that was all last week. Of course, check out What's on the Pegs every Saturday to see what I'm finding out there in my toy hunts. Guys like Sinestro, of course. And then also check out Tales of the Toy Box. I'm dropping a new episode about every month, covering a specific toy line kind of in its entirety. So a lot of fun there as well. Also, check out the TB Toycast podcast. It is our flagship show. We drop a new podcast every Thursday with me and Travis. We have a different main event covering a classic toy line, series by series, and we also cover all the news and happenings that's kind of interesting to us in the toy world that particular week. So always a lot of fun. So check that out wherever you get your podcasts. So that's pretty much it. That is Sinestro, such a cool figure, and a really fun addition to the Super Friends collection. And I've got so many more Super Friends to unbox. Like I said, I think I picked up all of Wave 2 now except Superman, and I've already picked up a couple from Wave 3. And I haven't talked about this much, but I've also picked up a couple of 66 Batman figures that I'm going to include with these. And I'm specifically going for figures that they're probably not going to make in Super Friends. So I picked up King Tut. I picked up Egghead. I picked up, who else did I grab? I grabbed the Two-Face they did in 66 Batman. I'd like to eventually get Clock King or Bookworm, because I feel like, they'll do Penguin, they'll do Joker, guys like that, but those characters are a little bit different, and I feel like they will mesh in well. So, and I always like King Tut. That was always such a fun villain to me, so that'll definitely be a fun one for the unboxing for the YouTube channel as well. So looking forward to that. That'll be coming up sometime down the road. But that's it. That's all I got. Thank you all very much for checking out the TB Toycast YouTube channel. That is Sinestro from the Super Friends line. And we will see you in the toy aisle.
Yeah. One more time. It ain't over till I say it's over. So lock the cage up, cause this is a takeover. The wait's over. If this the final time we meet, then you'll be on your back on my feet. Then I'll tip the cage over as a hangover. I'm super fly so I can splash off the top. And I can shut down the shot.